All right, listen up. We're taking a break from the usual content to do a reaction video. And this time, we're looking at online examples of OKRs. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe OKR examples should actually even exist. Yep, I said it. I know it's controversial, but hear me out. If I tell you your OKR should be ambitious, they should rely on your motivation. But then I give you a generic example of what an OKR should be like. We involve your team, I just explain it to them, do I really take into account your motivation? Do I take into account your priorities or even your context? Not so much. Now, people love shortcuts. And instead of reflecting on what truly matters to them, they just go online, copy paste some OKRs created by somebody else, and call it a day. That's why I have strong opinions here. And yes, I will be biased throughout the video. This also applies to AI generated OKRs, but more on that next week. And no, this isn't the kind of feedback I would give to a client in a workshop, but hey, this is performance unfiltered, right? Quick intro for the new folks here. I'm Ali. I've got a PhD in performance management and years of experience as a management consultant. I despise business buzzwords, fluff, and unnecessary complexity. The world is already complex enough. If you're into clear thinking, real talk, and a bit of roasting, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Because I simply cannot help myself, I'm still going to throw in few quick framework related explanations. Let's start with getting the terminology right. An objective is, as Dower describes it, simply what needs to be achieved and should have the following characteristics. It should be significant, it should be concrete, it should be action oriented or directional, it should be inspirational, a qualitative statement that is still doable in a quarter or a shorter period of time and provides business value. These are from Dower and also Niven and Lamort's writings. And all these three names are extremely established in the OKR world. The purpose of the key result, however, is to quantify the vagueness of the objective. In other words, to measure the objective. By answering questions such as how will we know we are getting there? How will we know we are actually achieving the objective? The achievement of the key result should automatically mean that the objective is also achieved. Um, in terms of characteristics, the key result should be quantifiable, should be specific, should be owned but not dependent 100% on the professional, should be progress based and not just yes or no, should of course be aspirational and challenging yet credible, so the team knows they can achieve it at one point, uh, and should focus on outcomes. As already covered in a previous video, key results can be made based on metrics, milestones, or even tangible deliverables. I've actually delivered a simple technique to know whether our key results are solid or not. Because let's be honest, the OKR framework doesn't really provide much guidance here, and it's not so clear how to know our key results are good. So, what I do is I use three probing questions to know if our OKRs are good or bad. The first question is it measurable? And when I say measurable, I mean actually measurable, not just slapping 100% in front of something and call it a day. Taking, for example, 100% understanding. How can you measure that? How do you know people understand 100% of something? This is not really a good key result. Then the second question, is it an end result? People often take activities and tasks and put them in their key results. But when we're checking for whether a key result is good or bad, we should focus on the outcome. We should focus on the final result. So if we say complete something by X% or just do a task, this is not really a good key result. The key result would be why we're doing that task, what we are expecting to accomplish after achieving the task. And the third question is, does it relate to the objective? This one gets ignored way too often. People get caught up in creating good metrics, creating good measurements, and they simply forget about the objective entirely. So I've seen teams having an objective and then few key results that have nothing to do with the objective mentioned. A key result that doesn't measure progress towards our objective is not a good key result, no matter how fancy or well worded it is. I also recommend starting your objective with a verb. It helps clarify the intent and give direction. For your key results, keep the formula simpler. Put it as the target plus the metric. If you start everything with a verb, it can get confusing real fast. And while it might seem like a minor detail or just semantics, trust me, this really helps establish a common language. Now, imagine if everything starts with a verb, it would be very easy for your people to ask, well, if this key result starts with a verb and it sounds like a smart objective, then what's the difference between this and the actual objective? This small tweak can bring much needed clarity, especially if you're trying to scale up OKRs across the entire organization. Quick disclaimer, these are just the first OKR examples I found by doing a basic Google search. I didn't cherry pick them, I didn't filter them or try to game the system just so I show you the worst ones. These are literally the OKRs that showed up on page 1. No edits, no tricks. Now, let's really get into it. So the first article I found was from, I guess, Zapier.com. I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly. The title of the article is What is an OKR? A Guide to Setting the Right Goals. Now, I immediately took offense at using one component to define another component, meaning you cannot define OKRs by saying you're setting the right goals. That's because goals are usually broad, high level. They are often very general or abstract, and they're also strategic and long term. That means about 3 to 5 years. In terms of goals, we are not necessarily measuring them directly, but we are splitting them into shorter term objectives. So when we look at objectives, they are specific, they're measurable, and they are usually shorter term. So 3 months to 1 year. They have to be, as we said earlier, clear, concrete, actionable, and they have to be measurable through key results. So here's the problem I have. You cannot say OKRs are helping you to set goals because you actually need to have the goals first in order to set OKRs that align to those previous goals. Now let's see how Zapier describes an OKR. They say an objective, and actually they provide throughout the article two different definitions. They say the objective is the big inspiring goal that outlines what you want to achieve, or a clear ambitious goal that sets the direction for the team or the company. In terms of the key results, again, they provide two different definitions. So far, nothing is bad with the definition. They say the key result is quantifiable outcome that measures how to achieve the objective, but they also define it as measurable specific outcome that track the progress towards the objective. So is it how we achieve it, or actually telling us if we're achieving it or not? Because how we achieve it, it's usually the definition of a project or an initiative, not the key result. So the purpose of the key result is to tell us if we're achieving the objective or not. The purpose of the initiative is to tell us how we're going to do that. For example, if we take an OKR, say our objective is to live a healthier lifestyle, and the key result would be drop our weight from a certain amount to another amount, then the initiative would be what we do or how we get the objective done. And we could say it is by going to the gym, or it is by running every day, or you can find another, probably another dozen examples of initiatives that will help you live a healthier lifestyle. Now, when we look further down, they say that instead of setting generic goals, again, for them, goals and the objective seems to be a synonym, such as let's improve customer experience, we should define clear, measurable objectives. But then the next objectives they provide as examples would be become the number one choice for small business accounting software. Number one choice sounds more like a vision than a goal or an objective, by the way. So again, I kind of do take offense with this. Launch a best-in-class customer onboarding experience. Now, to me, these are not exactly clear or very straightforward objectives. Let's move on to another example they provide. And this is a full-on OKR example. So it's not just the objective itself, but we have the key results. So the objective is improve customer experience on our website. Remember when I told you that they mentioned let's improve customer experience is not a good objective? Now, this is the objective they tell us. So they're contradicting themselves pretty much in the same page. In terms of key results, the first one, reduce average page load time from 5 seconds to 2 seconds. Nothing to comment here. Yes, if your page loads very quickly, then you have a better experience on the website. Increase checkout conversion rate from 30 to 50. I wouldn't necessarily think this has anything to do with the experience on the website. I might have a very good experience with the website, but maybe I don't like the product itself. So I'm not sure if the conversion rate can be associated with the experience on the website. And then achieve a 90% positive rating in post purchase surveys. Again, I don't see how this is related to the website, because I can buy a product and not like it and give it a bad score. So how is this related to the experience on the website? It's not very clear. uh, Another piece of advice they have is to make sure that we write the OKR by using the next formula. We will objective as measured by key result 1, key result 2, and key result 3 by date X. I'm not quite sure where the date is in their examples. Um, as far as we can see, nowhere to be found. Also, no, if your OKR is set for a certain quarter and you have to deliver it by, say, quarter 3 2025, then there's no need to write by quarter 3 2025 in every single one of your statements. It becomes repetitive and just boring overall. But speaking of this, don't you just love it when they tell you one thing and then in the very next breath, or row in our case, they show you an example that is completely different and contradicts their first statement? It's priceless to me. And this is the case for most examples we're going to discuss today. So just buckle up. Now, they give us another piece of advice, which is to turn goals into OKRs with an OKR generator. Remember when they said your objectives should be these big, inspiring goals that outline what you want to achieve? Well, they probably now mean a generator and not exactly just you. So I think you know where I stand here. Don't use a generator and just really critically think about your motivation and your priorities. Let's look into other examples they provide us. So they seem to have created some examples based on different departments, but they also have one that is company wide. Now, one of the biggest issues I have with their objectives is that they contain multiple objectives into one statement. And let me give you one example. We have the company wide objective, which is increase customer loyalty and retention. Well, retention and loyalty seems to be quite similar, because if I'm loyal to a company, I will go back, and that means I am retained as a client. So in this case, they don't quite go into two different directions, but ideally remove the end. What's the purpose of having two different aspects when we are referring to the same thing, which is maybe loyalty would be what I keep. Then, in terms of key results, again, the way they phrase it is as a smart objective and not necessarily as just a key result. We have increase NPS from 60 to 75. Sure, I know NPS is a measure of satisfaction, loyalty. People love this measurement, but in all fairness, it means nothing. So, first of all, you need to have a solid base of clients that respond to your NPS survey in order to matter. And secondly, just because I tell you that my intention is to recommend you, does that necessarily mean I will recommend you? Most probably not. And thirdly, the fact that I recommend you doesn't necessarily show my loyalty to the brand. So, yes, again, we could mention that it is, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It just shows the intention, and that's it. Then the second key result they have is reduce churn rate by 10%. This one, I think it's the one that probably is the best key result out of them all. And the third one is improve support response time to under 6 hours. Now, I would like to see a C-level executive that would set this key result as company-wide key result. So, especially when we're saying response time, we are referring actually to how fast we're responding to any client inquiries. First of all, this applies to only one department, the one that actually discusses with the client. And secondly, just because I am answering under 6 hours doesn't mean you're going to be loyal to my company. Because guess what? I can give you the answer you don't want to hear, or I can give you the answer that practically is just a question, and I'm asking you for give me more details. So just because I'm answering within 6 hours doesn't mean you're going to be happier and you're going to buy from us anymore. Then going to an example from marketing, and that is drive more qualified traffic and increase lead quality. Well, see, again, qualified traffic, isn't it lead quality? So once again, we have this end that doesn't really provide a lot of new information. So we have one key result, which is grow website traffic by 30%. Fair enough. Generate 500 new leads per month. Here, I would like to specify the fact that they should be qualified leads, the same way they wrote it in the objective. Otherwise, really, what's the purpose of this? Because we're just saying generate new leads, qualified or not, just new leads. And increase LinkedIn engagement by 20%. LinkedIn engagement meaning what? Because this doesn't quite generate any leads. So if I'm measuring the LinkedIn engagement, how does it tell me anything about qualified leads? Then another example, increase average deal value and expand into untapped markets from the sales department. See, this is what I've meant earlier with two different objectives, because it's one thing to expand in the same market, and that means basically having a bigger market share, or expand into new markets. So we have basically two objectives that are written as one, but they are two different destinations. So we've got as one key result, close new deals per quarter, close 100 new deals per quarter. Sure, we could say this is expansion if these are more deals than you've had before. Increase the average deal size 15%, and these two would be key results for the first part of the objective. And then we have as a third one, expand into two new geographical markets. Again, this would be in the untapped markets territory. But once again, we should probably separate them. So there's no problem necessarily with the key result. Again, just the fact that it starts with the verb, but separate your objectives and make sure they're actually one destination. We have another objective for customer support. Speed up resolution time and encourage customer self-service. See, once again, we have two objectives. One is to encourage customer self-service. The second one is to practically respond faster to and resolve faster whatever their queries have. The key results: reduce first response time from 12 hours to 4 hours. Fair enough, that is the resolution time. Increase self-service help center usage by 35%, which has to do with the second part of the objective, and increase customer satisfaction to 90%. See, customer satisfaction here doesn't tell us if we are speeding the resolution time and doesn't tell us if we are encouraging self-service. Ideally, we should be more specific with this. If we want to say increase customer satisfaction score with the resolution itself, but not just the overall customer satisfaction. Because what if I'm unhappy with the product or the service I received, not with the resolution to my query? What if I'm just unhappy with whatever the actual service I received from your company? Or I was unhappy with the way I was treated by the sales team, not by the support team, the customer support team. So when we're making these key results, if we really want them to be related to our objectives, we should make sure they are quite specific as well. Second company, Mailchimp.com. They define OKRs as, again, objectives are the high-level goals of your business. They're not. Let's just say this. They are not. The way they describe key results is that this is when the company outlines measurable milestones, not only, as we've discussed in the previous video, and defines success or progress when achieving an OKR. Fair enough so far. An objective can have several key results defined. How many? Because the framework does define exactly how many key results we should have, which is 2 or 3 up to 5. So if you're saying several key results, just say how many, because we have it very clearly in the literature. And then they provide a very interesting piece of advice, which is when we write key results, we should follow the SMART methodology. Now, SMART methodology is a different methodology than OKRs to set objectives. They refer to objectives, not key results. And Zapier, the company we've discussed earlier, actually contradicts this. And they make a clear separation between OKRs, SMART objectives, and few other methodologies as well. And they say that SMART are clear and achievable targets, 100% completion should be possible, they're variable, and they depend on individual accountability. Nothing from here actually fits the OKR framework. Now, the third piece of advice they give us, which is something that triggers me immensely, starts like this. OKRs are generally cascading. This is a very, very big no. They mentioned earlier in their article that the framework entails collaborative goal setting. Well, cascading does not. Cascading is practically assigning the OKRs to somebody else down the line. So that's not collaborative, and this is not how OKRs should work. When we look at OKRs, they're built on a bottom-up approach. That's kind of the whole point of collaboration. It's kind of the whole point of motivation as well. And yes, I promise that we will unpack this in another video. The same company also attempts to explain the difference between OKRs and KPIs. Honestly, I won't even get into their mistakes. We already covered this in a previous video, so go check it out if you're interested. Back to the OKR examples. Where do we start? Their first objective is our customer satisfaction has never been higher. Now, it might sound fancy, but it's not exactly very directive. Our customer satisfaction has never been higher sounds more like, I don't know, wishful thinking than anything else. So the objective here seems to be my main issue. Also, I want you to see how most of these examples we've discussed thus far, and probably the ones we will also discuss later on, are just business as usual objectives. They're the normal objectives everyone has in their balanced scorecard as well. In relation to key results, again, they're not necessarily created very well. They do not abide by the target plus metric rule, but we have customer satisfaction of 90% or higher. I would probably delete the fact that they need to be in feedback surveys, because everyone knows customer satisfaction is based on surveys. Then they have the average inquiry response time. Once again, if you're looking at client satisfaction, it's much broader than customer service. So I would probably take this and make it a bit broader. And then we have the percentage of repeat customers. Again, I don't have much problem with this either. But the second key result I would probably change to be something of much importance, because I would be much happier with the actual product or service than just the response time. Then the second objective they provide: foster creativity and innovation throughout the organization. This is one of my least favorite examples of objectives, because again, everyone has this and nobody actually measures innovation. They will measure number of innovation ideas. They will measure this very very meaningless measurement, but they don't measure if they foster creativity and innovation. So in all fairness, I don't like this example at all, especially for OKRs. Most of my clients use it in their balanced scorecard as well. So how does it differ? Not quite sure. So key result one: launch a company-wide ideation platform and receive 50 new ideas within the first 3 weeks of launching. First of all, your key result should not include your initiative. The ideation platform is what you do, is not the result that you get. So just check it out. And then receive 50 new ideas in the first weeks of launching. Sure, it's a good key result. I would probably look at relevant ideas, because if you just measure how many you get, people might say, let's paint the office pink, and you will count that as an idea. Does it count as innovation and creativity? Depends if you like pink or not, I guess. Second key result: allocate 15% of employees' working hours to engage in team development and innovation projects. This one is There's no way the fact that I allocate any amount of time to something means I am actually producing results. If you're a bad baker, you could have butter, milk, flour, sugar, and whatever else you need for cookies. You can allocate the entire day that you have to baking cookies. You can use those ingredients, you can try to bake cookies, and at the end, you're gonna have something that is unedible just because, again, you're a bad baker. So the fact that you're allocating enough time to something doesn't tell much. So again, check this one out. No need for it as a key result. It also doesn't reflect any outcome. Implement at least 3 ideas from the innovation platform into new processes, products, or services. Now, this one does tell us a bit more about creativity and innovation. And probably another good key result here would be to see what's the impact that these 3 new ideas actually create, if any. So, looking at, depending on what type of ideas we have, are we being more efficient? Are people being more happy? Whatever, again, the purpose of the ideas might be. So, one funny part and very ironic is that they also mentioned kind of a step-by-step approach, and they said first you need to define your objective, then the key results, and then the initiatives. Funny they should say that, given that most of their key results actually contain initiatives. So why add it in the key results then, if it's part of a completely different step? Hi there, future Ali from the editing balcony here. So, turns out I talked a lot more than I expected in the last video. I mean, I knew I could ramble, but even I was a bit surprised. So, because of this, I've decided to split the video into 2 parts. You've watched part 1 now, and part 2 will drop next week. If you're into this format, let me know in the comments. And while you're there, please share your performance struggles, any comments you have, questions, or even real life stories. Let's try to figure them out together. And thanks for hanging out. See you in the next one.